What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Champion Living Podcast, the only podcast crossing the lines between the sport of rodeo and fitness. Today's episode, we got Luke Ballard on here. Man, we are very, very excited to have you on. How are you feeling after yesterday?
I feel great. I didn't get bumped at all, which was nice. So I just got a long week to just recover, and not really from anything, but just keep up my body and just take care of myself and
So
be prepared for Thursday.
prepare for
I bet
Thursday.
that mustache takes a lot of upkeep,
It
right?
does.
Like
Yeah,
that's like there's probably quite a good bit of like morning routine, or what does that look like?
Yeah. So I wake up in the morning.
Let's hear it. I want to hear it. Let's
Yeah,
go.
I was just so this morning I'll walk you through it. Get up, get in the shower, get out, and the wax I use, you gotta put it in. And then you gotta let it set for a minute, and then you gotta blow dry it, and
wow.
and it hardens it.
So it's like
There's
a whole
kind of
That's
a
process.
your secret. That's your
Yeah.
secret. I like
Yeah.
it. I like
I'm
it.
not committed for that. I don't think I have the time for that.
It's like the only thing that I can do. So
What
Hey,
you,
we'll take it.
Yeah,
That's
you
awesome.
just
absolutely.
told us before we got started that you kind of earned the nickname Cool Hand Luke, and so the mustache goes along great with that. And then your bullfight performance yesterday also proved why they call you Cool Hand Luke.
Yeah, that's
Like,
I would agree.
This dude just smooth stepping around and didn't quite have the hottest bull, maybe, but like kept his composure and was aggressive, but like never rushed or never in a hurry to make something happen, but just like good precise movements, and it was a lot of fun to watch.
It was, man. Let's talk about the bullfight yesterday, then we'll kind of get into all the preparation, everything you've done leading up to this point of the year. Yeah, like Paul said, not the hottest bull in the pen. You had to work hard. How do you feel about it? How did it go? How do you like adapt and roll with something like that where it's not going exactly how you want it to?
right. So when he came out the gate, I threw a fake on him. He moved over perfect, so I thought it was gonna be a good fight, and then he left me right then. And I thought to myself, I was like, this is not gonna be good.
Yeah.
Like those other guys, they did good, but they kind of got hooked and went up the fence a little bit. But so I knew I had a little leeway, but I still wasn't gonna hold anything back. And when he left me that first time, I was freaking out. But so I knew I had to pressure him really hard, and I could have been a little slower on my rounds, like when I step around him, just like almost stopping and just like making him stay with me. But
Yeah.
looking back, but I think I did a pretty good job of pressuring him as much as I could, but he just wasn't having it.
Yeah, and I think that's just how rodeo and bullfighting goes. You got to have 50% as the animal, and some days they're just have an off day, and that you got to make the best of it. And we talk about that all the time with all of our other athletes and other events, but to hear about the bullfighting and see it does go the same exact way. You've got to have the bull power to win the deal, right?
Yeah.
But with that being said, like it still went really well. Did you have the high mark? You had the high mark in your flight, didn't you?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, no, we're getting to that for sure.
Yeah.
I was just saying, like, you've got to have the bull power.
100%.
And we talk about this with horse riders, like you're getting on something that's not ideal to get on, but you still have to find a way to win on it.
Yeah.
And that's what Luke did, was found a way to win on it. He kept hustling and kept moving, and he wasn't going to let that bull quit him, you know?
Yeah, that kind of like, what do you do when you have a bull that comes out and you figure out within the first 10 or 15 seconds, say, that he's not as hot as you were hoping for? What does that look like for you? Like what is your brain process there to be able to like, okay, how can I still win this bullfight with an animal that might not be as hot as the other ones?
Right. So with a hot bull, it's a lot easier because he's obviously going to come to you and stay hooked up. But with a bull that's not interested, he's going to try to leave you. And so what I've been taught by a bunch of guys that are way better than me, like you got to stay in their eye and make sure they see you, which is, I talked to Tuck after my fight, and that was one thing he suggested is like, instead of running kind of up his butt and like kind of swing a little wider and make
Let
sure
him see you.
get in his eye.
Yeah.
Get in his
But-
eye.
Yeah, just with get those.
I just like
He's just over getting
I like the
He's soaking
terminology.
it all
I
in.
don't
He's
know.
soaking-
Like, you know what I'm saying?
He's-
Like
no,
I mean,
it's-
there's
makes
so
sense.
many things that like for a bareback rider
Yep.
could say
Yep.
that, and we both know what they're talking about.
Yep.
Paul is lost. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? And so it's the same
Yep.
thing. Like
Agreed.
anyway, I love
Agreed.
learning the terminology and the concepts behind winning, no matter what it is.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I was listening to the team roper celebration deal buckle ceremony
Yeah.
that they were having last night, and they were saying terms I had never heard of ever.
Yeah, for
I was
sure.
like, that's crazy.
But
That is
most
funny.
most other team ropers probably have never heard those terms either. I think team ropers just
They
make
just
up
make
stuff
them
on
up
the
as they
fly. So
go.
yeah,
Yeah, there you go.
So we watched you in the arena yesterday, obviously working hard, having to put in a lot of effort, and the way you move is effortless, man. Like you're super light on your feet, very quick. What is I know what preparation looks like for that, but I want to talk about, with the listeners, like what does this all look like? How do you prepare to be one of the best professional bullfighters there is in the world right now?
Yeah, so Coach Tyler, he's been keeping me up, and I've kind of let him down a couple times, but but he keeps me on it, and I've been training with him for a couple, what is it, 4 months now or
Yeah.
5 since that. Yeah, it's been longer than that since the sports wellness clinic in May.
Oh
So
yeah.
that's been good for me. Just I struggle with like knowing what to do. You guys talked about that
Mhm.
a while back. It's like that's the hardest part. Is like
Mm.
what do I do? But
Mhm.
having stuff to do and then just having the motivation and the want and the try to get in the gym and get better. And I've been running a lot too, just to get my legs built up for this. And also, bullfighting's like a lot of guys say like 90% mental and 10% physical,
Physical.
but I'd probably say it's more than that mental. Like,
Really?
yeah, it's a mental game. And Bay City, we went there in September for the bullfighters only, and I got this big Red Bull. Kind of looked like that one. He had big old horns from Troy Bradshaw at Penthouse, and he just got in my mind. I thought about it all day, and I was like, I'm gonna draw him in the short round.
You did that to yourself.
Yeah,
You did that to
exactly.
yourself.
That's what
Self-inflicted right there.
and I just like my thought process going into that short round. I just knew it. And at first, they opened that gate, and I saw those horns, and I was like, "Yep, this
Here
is
we
it."
go.
And that was probably the worst bullfight I've ever had. So I'd
Really?
probably say it's more mental, way more mental than it is
Yeah.
physical. But
Well, I mean, you're doing something like the sport itself is inevitably
Dangerous.
far more dangerous than
Yeah.
like any. We consider every rodeo event to be more dangerous than most other sports, but like we're almost kind of trying to avoid the hard impacts and stuff like that in the other events, whereas in bullfighting you're welcoming the impact. Like you want the bull to come to you and you want him to get as close as
Yeah.
possible.
Yeah.
Like you're still trying to avoid it, but not really. Like
Yeah.
you're kind of asking for it.
Yeah.
And so I can definitely see how the mental game with all sports is super important, but with freestyle bullfighting in particular, like man, yeah, you're probably right. It is probably north of 90% mental.
Yeah,
for sure.
I was talking with Luke Yancey and Riley last night at the Hui party, and we were talking about that exact same thing. And how much of it do you think is mental? And because not only do you have the anxiety or the fear or whatever that comes from that, but you also have the like a little bit of what we talked about yesterday with Sasquatch is the anxiety or the cattle sense, right? Like being able to read cattle, and that part of the mental game too is
Right.
so difficult to be able to put together. So yeah, I mean, I would think from the outside looking in, it would definitely look like it's 98% mental, being
Yeah,
able to
for
have all
sure.
those concepts.
With that being said, like I know it happened after your flight. How do you go in the arena after watching one of your buddies get wrecked out? Like, and I know even like in the bareback riding too, like I'd be getting on and someone would hang up and I'm immediately like, look away. Like, I'm not watching that before I go because it will be in my head. I don't want to
Right.
think about that. So how do you like compartmentalize all that and get the job done? Because I mean, it was a pretty violent wreck.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it wasn't like a soft.
Yeah.
It looked like it hurt.
Yeah.
And I know that would be easy to mentally just like, oh shit, like reality check, like this
For
can
sure,
happen.
yeah.
Like how do you do that?
Man, it's hard. It's part. I mean, there goes in there with the mental game, but I'd say just I'm a big believer in Christ, and that's kind of my foundation. And so I'm like, whatever God has for me, I'm gonna do it 100%. So I'm like, which a lot of guys are like that, but some aren't, and I wish they were. And that's my goal to try to get them to that point. But I just say at that point, you see your buddy, hope he's okay, but then you gotta still take care of business, and so go in there just with smart or like sharp mind and just trust your fundamentals and the training that you put in and then trust God that He's gonna protect you and take care of you and
Dude.
get you through it. So
That's awesome. I was just gonna ask about the fundamentals. So, is there like 2 or 3 things you tell yourself the entire fight, or is there like 5 things that you do like how does that work? Like what's your self talk like during that?
Yeah, I don't know. I struggle with breathing when I fight. So like I've been chewing gum lately and whatnot during my fights, but just like thinking about the way the bull's gonna move, and then like how I'm gonna counter move him,
Mm-hmm.
but still keep him close. Man, I'd say like, cause like you can throw a fake on him and he'll move over, but then you don't want to move out of the way too much. Then like you're like rounds win rounds is what Frank always tells me, and Webb and all those guys. And if you keep that bull
Keep
engaged and
him
make
going.
rounds, you're gonna have a better chance of winning. The
Yeah.
judges like that. So it's like you want to make rounds, you want to kind of dress the bull up, make him look good, make yourself look good, and
Mhm.
then try to sell it with a trick or something cool for the crowd to get you more points. But really, like when you're making those rounds, like it's just like you're looking at the shoulder or the back hip of that bull. Like that's what all I look at, because like if you look at the head, you're gonna be behind,
Mm.
Mm.
and I've done that multiple times.
Yeah.
I'm a-
That would be all I could see for sure. I'm not getting
Yeah.
past the horns. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? I'm not gonna be able to focus on anything else.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So the way I was taught is like watch the tip of the horn go by, and then right there you're locked in the hip, and
Mhm.
just make rounds, wrap them up, stay tight. Because if you get bumped out and stretched out, you're gonna pay for it, as we
Mhm.
saw yesterday.
Yeah.
Which that's a hard bull to get around, just because
Yeah. There's
that
a lot of diameter to get around there.
Right,
Like
yeah,
with
there
his
was.
horns. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
insane.
Do you have a signature trick? You talk about like selling it with a deal, like, and I think a lot of the guys, or at least it would seem like a lot of the guys have that's like their thing, And do you have something like that?
I don't
No,
yet.
that's
I don't
okay.
know.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
okay.
he
Yeah,
will.
he's
He's
I
working
thinking
on
haven't
about it.
figured it out yet.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. That's cool.
I like the cross jump just because
Mm.
it looks good. It has the highest success rate, I think.
Yeah, yeah,
And the judges like it,
yeah.
so
Yeah.
and the
That's
crowd likes it.
Well,
So.
That's cool.
and I mean, you said not yet, and we all laugh, but like you're a young kid still. Like I mean,
Right.
you've got a lot of room for growth in the sport yet, even though you've already made it to the biggest stage in the world. Like that, they matched you up yesterday in the intros against the rookie versus the veteran
Mhm.
with Weston, and so like. What has been your experience like this first year? Is this your first year in the BFO first?
Yes,
I
sir.
guess. Okay, so what's been your experience with this first year in the BFO?
So I started out in Athens, Texas in June, I think.
Mhm.
And I was fortunate enough to win that event. It was in conjunction with the rodeo.
Mhm.
So that was kind of my first BFO event. And then man, I fell in love with it. I was like, this is awesome. And they do such a good job with production and just taking care of us. And I fell in love with it. And they've treated me good so far. And like being in the arena with some of the guys that I've watched for like, cause like I didn't grow up like rodeoing. My
Mm.
family didn't rodeo, but I was always that one kid at the rodeo that was
Mhm.
like,
That was
Yeah,
me too.
I think
I
we're
wanna
all like
do
that.
that.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I don't know how I'm gonna be involved. I
Yeah.
don't know what I'm gonna do, but I want to do that. And coming out of high school, I played all the sports in high school, and I was like, well, now what?
Yeah.
Like, I got a full-time job. I'm going to college, and I don't know what to do. Like,
Yeah.
I go to the gym, and then I go home and do homework and what. But so I got into that. I went to a bullfighting school with my buddy Wayne Ratley. He lives like an hour from my house, and then I got the chance to go to Webb's school up on
Is that the first one you went to?
the first one of Webb's, yeah.
Okay, cool.
But
Tell me about web school. Like, what do you feel like? What did that do for you as a bullfighter? You feel like what were there's some big takeaways out of that? Oh, it would seem like it's the best in the business for building bullfighters, and so I just would love to know why.
right, I'd say just like the knowledge, because like you got Webster there, he's putting it on obviously, but then you got Frank, he's always there,
Mhm.
and like Nathan Harp and Lucas and like
Yeah.
all those guys.
Best in the world.
Right, yeah,
Yeah.
the best in the world, and like all the knowledge and just the help that they can provide is just, I'd say that's the biggest part. And then the cattle,
Yeah.
like they provide, like they're not gonna try to kill you on your first day,
Mhm.
we fought that was the biggest school that I think has ever been put on. We fought like 70 calves the first day, and then like 50 something heifers.
Wow.
And that was all with Rex down in Coyote Hills Fighting Bulls, their breeding
Mhm.
program and whatnot. But that we were super fortunate to go through that many cattle and just get that many more reps. And
I can only imagine. Like, you got to have reps to get good at this. And
yeah,
you have to have the appropriate cattle to have the good reps,
Right.
or else you're just getting wrecked out and you don't get anywhere. It's just really similar in the rough stock riding.
It reminds me so much of our OPA
Yeah.
and like what we try to do with the reason that one of the many reasons why our optimal performance academies are different is because we do a really good job of matching the rider up on appropriate stock. We're not just
Yeah.
bucking colts. We're not just throwing them on whatever. Oh, you get on this one. Like, I know where you're at. This is going to be a good horse for you to get on, and you're going to be able to get some confidence, right? You learn by in the bucking horse ride, and I say you learn by seconds in the saddle. You don't learn if you just fall off at the end of the gate. Probably in bullfighting, you learn by rounds, right? The
Yep,
more amount of
sure.
time you can be on the dirt
Yeah.
with an animal, you're getting better,
Yeah,
and that
for
stock
sure.
selection is so important in that.
Yeah. I'd say another thing, like with having all those guys there, is they could see something in you that you don't see in yourself. And so they might challenge you with a better animal, and because they know that you can perform better than your mind is telling you to.
Mhm.
And that's another cool thing
That's huge,
that I
man.
would say. Just like they want to see you succeed so much
Yeah.
more than you might think you want to see yourself succeed. But I thought that was pretty cool.
That's awesome, dude. That is
So,
really funny.
well, hang on just a second before we move on. Like, what's been the timeline then? So, when did you go to Wayne's school first? Like,
So,
was that your first time stepping around a bull?
Yes,
Or is
sir.
that, wait.
Yeah.
Okay, so when was that?
It was April of 2022.
Oh, okay.
Bro, that's a year
Okay.
ago. That's a year ago.
This guy, this
He's
guy
been
over
you're
fighting
sitting
bulls
on the
for
biggest stage.
less than 18 months.
Yeah,
and he's at the BFO
just
finals.
won his round
And
yesterday.
he won the round.
Dude, that just shows so much about what we talk about, though. He was
and
na-
athlete.
started-
yes,
yes.
naturally athletic, played all the sports, knew how his body worked, was working out already. So you take an athlete that is already
a well-rounded
yes,
athlete. He wasn't
prepared,
over
and then you
specialized.
introduce
too
him to
early.
something like that. All he has to learn is the skills and the foundations of the sport, and he's there. Everyone else is doing it in reverse order.
Mhm.
Yes.
They're trying to learn the skills and the foundations, but you can't learn those at a high level because they're not fit enough to fucking do it.
Yeah.
So you have to. It just makes total sense, and we've been seeing that in other events too. Bareback riding, Kate Saunier.
Other
like,
sports are like that
Yeah,
right now too. All these kids are trying to specialize at age 12.
yep.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're burnt out by 15.
Luke didn't
like,
do it until he was 20 something.
right.
Yeah, 19, I think.
19. Yeah.
And everyone thinks they're
youngin.
behind the ball there. Like, you know what I mean? They'd
Yeah.
be like, oh, I can't do that.
Yeah, that's
Like,
too
kids
late. That's too
started
late
way
to
way
start.
earlier
Yeah,
than me. It's
no,
like,
it's
no,
not.
It's not.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
s-
you see that across the board. Bareback riders, I mean, some of the best in the world didn't start till they were in college, you know, and
Right.
so it's exactly, I love that. Have you always been, so you played all the sports in high school? What did you play in high school?
like football and basketball. We didn't have baseball, but
Yeah.
I didn't really run track. I did more field.
Hey,
Yeah.
there you go.
Yeah.
That would be
wasn't-
my,
I
my
wasn't very-
favorite part of track, too.
I wasn't very fast, but I could pole vault pretty well, which was cool.
Yeah.
Everybody thought that was pretty cool.
That
and
is
I
awesome.
thought it was cool.
Yeah.
The
'cause-
athletic skills you have to learn to do that event is like
It's very
it's
technical.
tough. It's very
Yeah.
technical. You have to be very strong. Your core has to be strong. You
For
have to
sure.
be able to control your body at the top level. So watching you move in the arena, this is all making a lot of sense. Why
Yeah.
you move so well and why you're doing the things you are, man. It's cool.
Yeah.
Really cool. What I want to hear about the season. So we talk a lot about like PRCA season. You're going hard. You're going rodeo to rodeo. What does the bullfighting season look like?
So I do not have my pro card yet.
Okay.
So that's one of my goals within the next couple of years. But I will do work for a stock contractor in Kansas, and we go almost every weekend. And it's a smaller association, so just showing up, sorting, feeding, working, and then we get to fight some bulls. But
Yeah.
just like staying.
Protection stuff, right? Like at a
Right,
rodeo.
yeah.
So do you feel like that helps your freestyle bullfighting?
Oh, for sure.
Heck yeah. Just
Especially
being
with
around it.
the breeding cattle, like
Mhm.
getting that many more reps.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
most people think they're completely different sports, but in all reality, it's bullfighting,
Mhm.
you know. And
You got to be around.
there's
You got to be
similar-
around them. Yeah.
there's similar movements between a Mexican fighting bull and just a bucking bull, and like, yeah, it just goes hand in hand with one another.
It makes total sense. So Dalton Castle, I was talking to him. He was on TBR teams, and he last year like came alive, like really started riding very very well. And we were talking, and he's like, "Man, I don't work out a whole lot," and I'm like, "I don't I'm not going to sit here and tell you got to work out. I said, what has gotten you to here? He's like, I just been around bulls so much more. Like I've literally given my whole life to being around bulls, raising bulls, being around them all the time, learning how they move. Like you start learning those things, you can do incredible things in either event. That's why I think Richie was so good at bareback riding is because, dude, that kid could ride a horse in his sleep. He could ride a horse and shoot guns off it in his sleep. You know what I mean? Like he was, it just makes total sense. So learning how to read cattle is huge, and being around that in your free time is even better.
Yeah, especially for a guy like you. You have the athletic component, right? You already have the athletic component. And now you've got the knowledge. You have the knowledge. What you're building now is the understanding. You're building, there's a difference between the knowledge of what to do and the understanding, and it comes through application. And so now it's just like, how many bulls can I get around? I want to get around as many bulls as possible so I can get those reps so I learn how to read cattle. And that's why there's a lesson to be learned here for those that are listening that have maybe aspired to be bullfighters. Like it's not the way. Might not necessarily be starting with the bullfighting skill specific stuff first, right? Like go play basketball, go play football,
Go be an athlete.
Go be an athlete and learn that. And then you can always learn the skill specific stuff once you have the framework for athleticism.
Yeah.
For sure.
How many times do we talk about, like, us? We don't rodeo anymore, but we're training to be functional at life. Like, I want to go do whatever I want to do, and I don't want my fitness to hold me back. If I want to go fucking start fighting bulls, I could go do that. You know?
I like options.
I don't want, but I don't want to do that. But I'm just saying.
I just want to have options. I want to be able to, when my kid is 18 and he's like, oh yeah, old dad's washed up, or whatever, and I can't do it. I'm gonna be like, all right, find me a rigging. And I want to be able to get on. I'm gonna pick the horse, but I want to be able to get on and kick something. I just want options, like I just want to, but I know that if I'm not training now, like it's not going to happen. And I think that's the same way, we want to afford a lifestyle of whatever we want to do because we're physically fit enough. And with that physical fitness also comes the mental aspect that we're equipped and we can overcome whatever comes in front of us.
You bet.
Yeah.
You bet. Funny story about kind of that lifestyle. So I went to college. I went to OSU. Go Pokes.
Go Pokes.
Go Pokes.
But so I went to college, and this was before I started bullfighting. It was it would have been the fall of 2021, and I was like, this is awesome. Like that school had a great weight room, so I was in it all the time, and I was getting. Like I got big, like started bulking up, and I was feeling good, and I got a little over 200 pounds, which for me was like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
Like I was feeling good, and then I was like really wanting to try bullfighting, and then I went to that school in April, and I was still about that weight, and I was like, this is not gonna work. Like the way you train for certain things, like I tell guys all the time, they're like, oh, I hate cardio. I don't know how you do so much, and just like, you don't even lift heavy. What are you doing? It's like we're training for like two completely different types of things.
Yeah.
Like I'm training to stay light on my feet, to stay slimmer and more cut, and just like keep my mobility, and they're training to just get absolutely just massive.
Yeah. Training for aesthetics and sport specific things are very, very different when you approach them, right?
Sure.
Like we get guys all the time. They're like, I want to get better at bull riding. And you're like, cool. And then 2 months later, like, what the hell, dude? I don't have a six pack. And you're like, do you want to have a six pack or ride bulls really good? Because they're not the same. Just because you have a six pack doesn't mean you're going to ride bulls well at all.
Yeah.
They're very different goals. So like making sure you're very concrete on like what you're doing in the gym, and watching you come from like an aesthetic background to the sport specific side where Tyler's been making workouts for you, focus on proper energy systems that you're 60 seconds of fighting. There's really no use in running 10 miles, right? We run, but it's for intervals that are training your energy systems to work in that time frame and make you efficient out in the arena. So they are a lot different. That's funny. That's cool
That's
to
the
hear,
first
though.
thing I noticed about you. Like I'd never met you before, and you introduced yourself, and I looked at Tyler, and I was like,
good
this
work.
guy's been working out, like, because you're like, man, you're solid. When I look at the field of bullfighters that are here, like, man, you stand out, as somebody that's like, man, you're freaking kind of jacked, you know what I'm saying? But I feel like you found that spot. We see this with bull riders that they want to be lean and they want to be small and they want to, and we know, like, scientifically, they could actually probably, a lot of them, be 10 or 15 pounds heavier with lean tissue, and they'd be much more explosive and much more dynamic. And it seems like
And durable.
from your background of being of being 200 pounds and pretty jacked, it seems like you found the sweet spot.
Yeah,
You
for
know, where
sure.
you're powerful, but you're not too heavy.
Where are you at
You
right
bet.
now?
I'm at like 185.
Yeah, that's
money.
feeling
Money.
good.
Money.
dangerous.
Yeah.
Oh, that's outstanding.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think that's a great weight to be at. And
Yeah.
I think it's all about how you feel at the end. Like,
For
you
sure.
didn't feel light on your feet at 200, you know?
Yeah,
But
definitely
you
not.
also probably weren't like looking at the scale like, I got to get down to this number. You're like, oh, I feel good. What am I at? Oh, I'm at
Mm.
185. Sweet. This is my sweet spot. This is where I feel
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Which I actually went down. I was like a 175.
Like-
So I went from like 200, and then like I went to that bullfighting school, and he told me like I should probably lose a little weight, and I started eating better and whatnot, and I got down to like 175, and I just didn't feel like I had, I don't know, I just felt small.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
and then I went to that clinic in there and got hooked up with Tyler, and then April Dirt Eater, she was working with me and
Awesome.
just made me understand like more on the diet side of things and like nutrition. Just like you don't need to cut all this out of your diet to like be successful. You just gotta balance it a little bit better. But
Mhm.
that was huge for me. Just and then to help maintain this weight and excuse me, maintain this weight and like just my body, and it's been a challenge, but it's been a good challenge, and
It's
it's
awesome.
been going good for like the past 4 months. It's been pretty steady, so
Perfect. It's only going
Yeah.
to get better, man.
Mhm.
You're just like starting your journey with fitness, with all of this. Tip of the iceberg for you, man. Like, it's only going to get better.
He's just getting
He's
started with
18 months.
bullfighting.
So
Bro.
definitely the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah,
for sure.
we haven't even begun to get on the iceberg
yeah.
yet. Yeah.
on the on that topic though, I want to whoever's listening, I want to put out there, I did not which this was probably, I'd say this is one of the main factors that's got me where I'm at today, is I didn't start with trying to get my like I wanted to do it right. I didn't want to like go to people and be like, "Hey, let me step in here around this bull."
Yep.
I wanted to go to a school, get the fundamentals right,
Mm.
and learn the right way before I've developed any bad habits.
I love
and
that, man.
That was huge for me, because like that coming out of that school, I got voted the top student, which was huge. I got a new vest, which I still wear today,
Yeah.
and like coming out there with all good habits, good fundamentals. That was, I mean, you couldn't ask for a better foundation to start.
Yeah, so your literal first introduction to bullfighting was from some of the best guys in the world.
For sure.
So you had no room to make bad habits.
Right.
And you don't have to, and then when you do that, you don't have to undo the things that you've been doing to lead up there. I think all three of us started rodeo probably at a rodeo.
100% at a rodeo.
And one of our biggest messages that we've been talking about on this podcast since day one is don't do that.
Yeah.
Go to a school first. That's where your introduction needs to be,
Yeah.
and hopefully a good school. And,
Yeah, and
and
there's
that's
so
definitely
many-
what you've done.
There's so many school like opportunities for guys to do that these days. It's so
Mhm.
awesome to see. But
Yeah, it is. The way you learn is very, very important. We talk about this all the time in a sport that is inherently dangerous already. Getting a good foundation is going to be your best bet. Otherwise, you're never going to make it there. And then, like, going back to what we were talking about before with the guys kind of putting the cart before the horse and they fall in love with the thought of being a badass bullfighter.
Mm-hmm.
So they go to a school without the athletic ability to do it, and they don't get near as much out of the school because they can't do what's being asked of them, right?
right.
If we did that reverse order and got fit and athletic first and then went to a school, you're in a much better place to learn all of the foundations and things that you need to, and you can actually do them
Right.
other than just thinking and getting frustrated why you can't do them, right? Because you've never worked out in your life.
Right.
It's a huge part.
I have one. I have one question about like your training. You have an extensive training history. I mean, you've worked out. It sounds like throughout high school, played sports and done those kind of
Yes,
things, and
sir.
then you've worked out like started college and you were working out, and then you started working with Champion Living Fitness. You started working with Tyler. What differences have you noticed, or what do you feel like you've benefited from having a coach? Like, how has that changed your approach?
Yeah, so like when I was getting in college, when I was getting big and just trying to get big, that was my main objective. And that going from that way of training to like and then transferring into bullfighting and working with Tyler, it's like, how can I be lightest on my feet, fit,
Yeah.
just like ready to go, feeling good most like all the time, and just feeling like I can move. That's the
Mhm.
biggest part is like, because when you're big, you're like, this is awesome, but you try to go get around the bull and
not
you're like,
so awesome.
It's
yeah,
not so awesome at
right.
that point
So
in time.
just being fit and being like solid and trusting that is a huge part. And I'm thankful for Tyler and all he does and
Yeah.
keeping me going down the road. But
Man, that's awesome. We're thankful for Tyler too.
He's a G man. His is like we've done some programming together this year, and just seeing his understanding and application of strength and conditioning and how it applies directly to bullfighting has exploded in the last 12
Yeah.
months, and it's been such a cool transition to see, and it's been a lot of fun just as like just being a coworker with him and
Mhm.
getting to watch his growth.
yeah,
Man, it's been a lot of fun. It's super cool.
he's got a sweet mustache too.
He does.
He
You guys,
does. He does. He needs to get some of that wax though. You
Yeah,
got to
you
hook
need
him
to
up.
take
You
some
got to hook
pictures.
him up with
Yeah,
some of the
hook him
wax.
yeah, before we get kicked out of here, I ask every guest that we have on the show this question: what is a legacy that you want to leave behind? It can be bullfighting, it can be life. What do you want to be remembered for?
Yeah, so I'm gonna get deep on you guys.
Let's
but,
do it.
Go for it.
I love
My vision would be, most people look at rodeo and they're like, man, that's a rough crowd. Like, I want to be like, have a family that looks at a rodeo and be like, let's go as a family and go to that event and not worried about, cowboys, like what the tradition behind that
Right.
is. But like, I'd say just changing the game as far as like, I don't know how I want to say this. Like, I want to change the guys like way of thinking to where like they all love the Lord, they're all
Mhm.
faithful, they all like each other, they all I don't know. I just want to be a good influence, and hopefully my influence on them changes their life, and then they can change other people's lives and impact their lives that way. But I don't know.
How old are
It
you?
just 20.
20.
I turned 21 in 2 months.
That's a
and-
hell of a vision for a 20-year-old man. I think that is
But-
absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
Dude,
And I
good
think you're
luck.
on the right track.
Yeah, you are definitely on the right track. You got any? What were you gonna say?
Oh, I was just gonna say I turned 21 in 2 months, and it's
21,
like
2 months.
I hardly drink and I don't
No.
do any of that stuff. But it's like networking. Like all of my friends are going to these parties that I can't get into, which is kind of a good thing.
Yeah,
Uh,
keeps you focused.
keeps me focused. But like,
Yeah,
I think networking is like a big part of rodeo, and
yeah, it is.
and it
Absolutely.
would be nice to do. But hopefully, I come back next year and can do that.
Oh, you'll
But-
be back next year, man.
Bro.
You'll be back.
yeah,
Just keep doing the things that you are.
Yeah, you are wise beyond your years already.
Way beyond them.
That's I think I don't know how much time we got, but
Couple minutes.
I always was like friends with the older people in
Mhm.
school and whatnot, and like my best friend, he's 35.
Mine too.
Yes.
But
I'm 34, Paul.
Let's just take it. Let's just be easy on the old people. Okay, let's not do
And
that.
I think having those guys in my life, and like so the 35-year-old, I met him a long time ago, but we didn't get close until I was in college, and I worked for him when I was in college and whatnot. And I'd say I've had a lot of good mentors and like friends that I could just lean on, and they're old. Like, I don't know if they listen. They're probably not gonna listen to this. They're old, but they're
We got lots of old
Don't even
people
know how to
listen.
spell podcast.
Yeah. they're well into their 60s, but having those mentors and just friends, genuine friends in my life has shaped me to be the best that I could be, I think, and I'm super thankful for them and their impact on my life, and just
It's
keeping
huge,
me-
man. To have mentors is huge. That can help you and get you down the road. And you've set yourself up with some awesome mentors. Man, we wish you the best of luck this week. We are excited to watch you cap this all off and keep doing what you're doing. Got to thank our sponsors. Beastmaster Rodeo been with us since day one. If you guys want any rodeo gear or equipment, does not matter what event, they've got it. BeastmasterRodeo.com. Check them out. Use our discount code Champion Living, all one word. Caps Lock is going to save you 10% on all their products. And Hui Brands been nice enough to set this whole thing up for us this week. Set up the BFO. They're the reason you're here.
Yes, sir.
Cannot thank Hui enough. Guys, check out Hui at getyourhui.com. Use our discount code Champion Living, all one word, not case specific. Going to save you 10% on all their gear. Till next time, we'll catch you later.
Yep.